morning, Mitch. How you doing, brother?
Hey, good morning, Chuck. I'm doing pretty good. Excited to be here with you today.
Absolutely. Happy Wednesday to you. Hump day.
Hump day. Happy Wednesday, veterans, and thanks for spending some time with us today. Before we get started with today's topics, let's go ahead and sound off in the comments. Let us know where you are tuning in from and what branch of service you were in.
Yeah, throw your MOS or the job that you did as well. Like to see where everybody did also. Hey, welcome Norma from Florida. Navy retired, 90%.
Thank you for your service, Norma. Florida. There we go.
Looks like the Navy's taken over already this morning.
I know we got some Army veterans on here today, too.
Another Florida. I'm jealous of all them Floridians down there. Hopefully one day I will be down there myself. Welcome James from Maryland. 0802. I have no idea what that is. But thanks
You
for
know they
the
got to make it difficult, Chuck. All the branches of service got to have their different codings.
That's right. That's right. Another
Here we
Navy
go.
guy. There's an Army guy. Welcome, Greg from Knoxville, Tennessee. U.S. Army 11 Bravo. Ted, shout out to you. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today. Got a good class for y'all, so hopefully you'll get some good information out of this today. I see a Miss Rangers lead the way. Who? Texas. Awesome. Thanks for joining.
We got Ken Wyatt on here, Alabama Army, Air Force, Robin Ritchie. We got the whole team here today.
Absolutely. Where's the Coasties?
Kathy,
Bruce.
we're glad you're here too.
Yeah, I bet they're feeling the heat down there in Texas. I was down in Austin last week for a couple of days, and man, I stepped off the plane and that heat took the breath right out of me.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it seems like it's one of those things when it's winter. You know, I'm from Minnesota, Chuck. When I go home and it's winter, I'm like, what was I missing about that? But then when I get down in the south, I'm like, oh man, it's hot.
Yeah. Oh, there's a Coast Guard right there, Elko, Nevada. Welcome, Bruce. I spent a little time down in Elko before, little bitty town.
Going up to
Yep, I hear you,
106
Kathy.
today.
Oh man, holy smokes! I live out in Utah, so I don't even know that we hit 90 yet. Welcome,
We got
Leo, Air Force, 72 to 76, 90%.
There we go. Thank you for your service, everyone. Your family service, spouses. Me and Chuck are both military veterans. I'll tell you, we really mean it. So thanks for being here, you and your family members today.
Yeah, hopefully we got a good class set up for everyone today. So we'll try to get to questions, towards the end of the presentation today. You're more than welcome to put your questions in the chat there, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. And if we don't, somebody will always come back and reach out and answer those questions. Okay, so I know there will be a lot of people probably on here today, so we won't get to all of them, I'm sure. Welcome, Tom Riley, 13 Bravo. I spent a few years as a 13 Bravo myself. So, welcome aboard. And if you want to kick this thing off, Mitch, I think we're at the 10:05 mark. So, or what, 11:05. Your
All
time.
right.
Well, heck, it's 12:05 your time, right?
Yep, it's 12:05. You said 10:05. I was like, huh? So we're in different time zones. I'm here in Kentucky, everyone. So real quick, just a little bit about me. I'm Coach Mitch. I'm excited to really be here with you today. I'm an Army veteran. I joined after September 11th. Felt that calling inside to come in and serve. I was very blessed. I made a career of the Army. Actually transitioned out last year. So July 1st will be officially 1 year. Retired from the Army. As I kind of went through that process with the VA claims, I found myself really frustrated. I wasn't understanding some things that, as veterans or, just in general, we're really where we're used to getting answers direct. I found VA Claims Insider. I found this second calling. I'm here. I want to help veterans. I want to serve veterans. It's something I'm very passionate about. And when I found VA Claims Insider, it kind of was that huge eye opener for me. So that's just a little bit about me. How about you, Chuck?
Yeah, thanks, Mitch. So, yeah, I'm a 26-year Army veteran myself. I joined 17 years old right out of high school and never looked back. And spent a little bit of time, as 13 Bravo back in the day when I was young, wanting to blow stuff up. That's what I did. So, done that. Didn't take me a whole lot of time though, Mitch, to figure out. I don't know if I can do this 13 Bravo stuff for that many years. So I switched over to military police. Done that for a good while. Got a good gig doing some personal security stuff. Got to travel a lot. And then about 10-year mark, I went into recruiting command and spent my last 10 years in recruiting. So got to help young men and women, join the Army and get their lives started. So, but I was kind of in the same boat, I think, as you, Mitch. Like when I retired in 2015, I can't believe it's been that freaking long already. But I really didn't know anything about the VA claims process, not one single thing. I just walked into the VA once I moved out here to Salt Lake City and walked in with my documents, sit down with some lady, and she's like, "Yeah, give me copies of your stuff." I didn't even know what I was filing for. Um, Gave her my stuff, and she kind of helped me process stuff, and I came out at 30% about 3 months later, and I didn't even know I could do anything else. I thought that was it. That's where I'm going to be for the rest of my life. Until I came across VA Claims Insider and talked to a coach here, and he was telling me all the things that I could do, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is crazy. Why didn't I know about this? 10 years ago, right?" So I was a client here at VA Claims Insider and got up to 90% and was lucky and fortunate enough to get a good job here as a coach to help veterans, because I can tell you it is frustrating. And our class today is going to kind of talk about some of the processes as well. If you ever get denied on a claim, what are some of your options, right? So, I've been denied on my share of claims too, and it is frustrating. But I think being here at VA Claims Insider, and we'll talk a little bit more. I know there's some of you probably on this call today that may or may not be members here at VA Claims Insider, and we're going to put out some information on how you can go about, doing a quick discovery call just to kind of see if it's something that you might be interested to. So we'll touch on that a little bit today too. Okay. Hey, welcome, Justin. Hey, yeah, I'm Justin's coach. Welcome, brother.
It's good to see some friendly faces in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope I haven't missed anybody. I have a hard time like watching the chat, watching the camera, watching my notes and stuff. So hopefully I didn't miss any of y'all, but we'll get this show kicked off. Before we get started, I'm going to read off a quick disclaimer to everybody, and then we'll kind of to jump into the class and answer questions kind of at the end, okay? So here's the disclaimer. We are not accredited agents, VSOs, attorneys, or any other entity recognized by the Department of Veteran Affairs, and we are not affiliated with the VA in any way. VA Claims Insider is an education-based coaching consulting company for disabled veterans exploring eligibility for increased VA disability benefits and who wish to learn more about that process. VA Claims Insider also connects veterans with our preferred provider network for medical examinations and independent medical opinions for a wide range of disability conditions. The Insider Portal is a third-party application that allows veterans to connect through their va.gov profile. The Insider Portal is referred to as a third-party application because the VA does not create these services and veterans are never required to use them. All right, so just to start off, if you're not an elite member here at VA Claims Insider, just to touch real quick on that process of becoming an elite member, we do offer a lot of great things. When you are an elite member, you have your own coach, you get one-on-one coaching sessions. The strategy session where the coach will sit down with you when you have that initial strategy call and kind of discuss with you what the best strategy is for you. Because believe it or not, there are strategies out there, man. And it's eye-opening once you sit back and you have that coach explaining that stuff to you and showing you different routes to go. It's nuts. It's nuts. Claim submissions. Now, that's kind of going to be on you. Your coach is there to kind of help provide guidance with you, but your coach is not going to go submit your claim for you. Okay. CMP preparation. So once you get your claim submitted, kind of the next step in the process is that CMP exam, right? Where you kind of get that valuable coaching session with your coach. That's kind of going to help you get prepared for that CMP exam. Because I think a lot of times, when vets submit claims, or maybe they were working with a VSO or whoever, and they had all these claims submitted, and then they get those medical exams scheduled. They don't know how to go into that thing, right? Like I didn't, and I see that a lot with a lot of the vets that I work with, that were kind of, they remember it, but they weren't ready for it back when it happened. So that's kind of what we do here too. Also, being an elite member here at VACI, 3 times a week, we offer classes, live Zoom classes with the coaches here at VACI. So mental health exam prep, medical exam prep. They have the orientation class too. Coffee with the coaches. That's a fun one.
Love it.
So that's one that all the coaches here, all the veterans that are members here at VACI, kind of enjoy joining up in the morning, right? Kind of get your day started. And I know I've missed that stuff, back being in the Army and getting that quality time with veteran buddies. That coffee with the coaches is kind of a good class to jump on for sure. You join that one quite often, Mitch? I know you're on the East Coast. You probably, it starts a little bit later in the day for you.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier, Chuck, for me to get on that class. I think it's really at 9:00 Eastern Standard Time. So I kind of luck out there. But these classes are really valuable, right? It's a community of coaches that come together, and the veterans that are in these classes really help out too. And to have that community, of veterans and be able to reach out for resources and guidance, it's priceless. I love being part of it. But the coffee with the coaches, Chuck, is definitely a little easier for me to get to, for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty open, right? I see Brian Reese joined us this morning. Welcome, Brian. Glad to see you, brother. Yeah, so it's coffee with the coaches is pretty fun because it's not, it's not a laid out class for the most part. It's kind of open communication. We talk about anything and everything in there. If you have questions, you can come in there and answer or ask the questions, and you'll have a whole slew full of coaches on there, senior coaches that can help you out. So if you haven't joined, feel free to do the free discovery call. Okay. And that discovery call is just a quick call with you and a ambassador here at VA Claims Insider, a veteran ambassador, and just call up. It's Nobody's pushing you to join VACI. Okay. It's one of those things that you kind of have everything to gain and nothing to lose, right? It's like, do the discovery call, talk to that ambassador, see what the program's about, see what they can offer you and things like that. And if it's something that you're interested in, by all means, sign up for the elite program and you'll have a coach assigned to you. So it's one of those things that, I look back at it all the time now, and, all my veteran buddies that I was stationed with, I send them Facebook messages. I copy and paste, the VA Claims Insider link to them. I'm like, look, if you get 15 minutes, just check it out. You don't have to join. It's up to you, right? But man, and a lot of them have joined, and I have been a lot of their coaches and kind of helped them to get that increase that they deserve. But we'll get started here. I know we have about 45 minutes, I think, left here, but we're kind of going to discuss today, the three options when your claim gets denied, right? And a lot of times I feel like, veterans that are pretty new to the VA claims process, or maybe they haven't even started the process, that word denial in itself is just frustrating, because, you deserve the benefits that you get, right? You serve your country, right? So it's kind of one of those things that is a scary word for me, even to get that denial letter and be like, man, what do I got to do to prove to these folks that this was caused by my service, right? So if you ever get denied, the VA has made it really fairly easy for you to submit the appeals that you can do if you ever get denied right online. Okay. So when you go to va.gov and you submit your claim and it comes back denied, well, you have the opportunity to file an appeal right online. Okay. So it kind of makes it easy through the process. The VA, I think, has done a pretty good job. I don't look at the VA, as our hardcore enemy and because they, for the most part, they are there to help veterans too. Okay. But what you got to kind of keep in mind is, what do I need in order to have a successful appeal? What do I need in order to have a successful claim in the first place? Right. Which lots of vets don't know. I didn't know until I came to VACI, like, oh man, that makes sense. But if you have filed a claim before and you were denied, there are still steps that you can take to still fight. Okay. And that's what we're here for as coaches, to help you fight through the process. Right. And we're not going to give up, and we're not going to let you all give up. Okay. That's what your coach is here for. So if you have been denied, it's not the end of the world. We can still keep going. Okay. But one of the easiest ones to do to start off with when it comes to like the appeal process is the higher level review. Okay. So a lot of times when my vets, if we come up with a good game plan or a good strategy and we think we got it right, and then we get that decision letter back and voila, denied. Right. So the vet's mad, frustrated. He's calling me. I got my decision letter. Got denied. What's next? Right. So the easiest thing is the higher level review. So what that higher level review does is it gets a senior reviewer at the VA to go back and relook at that claim that you were denied on. Right. Now, a few things about the higher level review is they take a fresh look at it. That senior reviewer takes a fresh look at that claim, but he's only looking at that evidence that you originally submitted with that claim. Okay. Because, the VA, they have lots of raters down there that adjudicate the claims. However, there's mistakes made. We're all human, right? So, it's important that you read through that decision letter and just not look at that very first line that says service connection for migraines denied, right? You got to really read through that decision letter, take a look at the evidence that was reviewed, during that original claim, and make sure that all the evidence that you submitted during that claim was looked at. And I find that a lot, once I'm kind of, helping vets, decipher that decision letter, because they are confusing, right? But sometimes you'll find that the evidence maybe that you submitted didn't even get looked at during that decision process. So when it comes to doing that higher level review, that's one of the examples that I see a lot of times, right? Is that the evidence was not considered, right? So then when you submit that higher level review, that's kind of the argument point during that higher level review is, hey, I submitted all this medical evidence, but on that decision letter, it doesn't even show that evidence was looked at to make the decision on my claim, right? And that's just one example. Now, keep in mind that when you're doing a higher level review, you can't add any additional evidence when you submit that higher level review. So they're only going back to look at what you submitted originally. That's why it's really important to kind of have all of that stuff together when you submit that claim and make sure you get all that uploaded during your claim. And then another one is an inadequate reasons and basis, right? The rating decision doesn't tell much or consider the evidence you provided. Make the VA explain why they denied your claim specifically. And sometimes you'll see those generic, I know you've seen them, Mitch, in that decision letter, those generic bullets that they put in there, right? That just kind of doesn't make sense. Sometimes you'll see there was no nexus connection or whatnot. And you're like, well, that's weird because the nexus was uploaded, right? So you'll see that quite often too. And a lot of times those VA raters, I think they have like a big page of notes where they can copy and paste stuff and just put it on your decision letter. And sometimes, I'll really notice that. I'll be like, well, this has nothing to even do with this type of claim, right? But they're human. They make errors, and it's our job as your coach to kind of help you decipher that stuff out of that decision letter. And another example would be the rating doesn't match your evidence, right? So, the lower rating, sometimes I'll see vets get lowballed on something, and I'm sure it happens more often than not, right? Where maybe you have a lot of great medical evidence, your symptoms are, falling in the 50% range or the 70% range, or heck, maybe even the 100% range, right? Depending on how severe your symptoms are. And maybe the rating that you get back doesn't match that, right? So I really take a look at that too. And that's another big one that I do higher level reviews with my vets on too, is because they do have a lot of great medical evidence when they submit that claim. Their symptoms are warranting a higher rating percentage. And I can tell you, higher level reviews, I feel like, I've been pretty successful when it comes to submitting those things with vets, because like I said earlier, that senior reviewer that's been at the VA for many, many years will go back and relook that stuff, and make sure they got it right. Okay. Well, as far as an exam, right? When you do a higher level review, a lot of times you may or may not get scheduled for another CMP exam. I've had veterans, do that higher level review process and then reach back out to me and say, oh, hey, they scheduled me for another CMP exam. It could have either been maybe they didn't get a CMP exam when they originally submitted their claim, right? And sometimes you'll see that more often than not. But a lot of times that senior reviewer may or may not request another CMP exam for you. So you have 1 year to file that higher level review from the original rating decision, okay? And the average wait time for the HLR appeals process is usually around 4 months. Now, most of mine, I think, Mitch, that I've done, I don't know if it's just I'm lucky or what, but those things come back pretty darn quick, And another quick thing to touch on that higher level review is I always have my veterans submit for the informal conference call. So when you file that higher level review, you have an option to do an informal conference call with that senior reviewer at the VA that's going to go back and relook this for you. So I always tell my vets, hey, look, and they ask me, hey, do I do this? What is this? Right. Well, I just let them know, hey, this is your opportunity. This is 5, 10, 15 minutes that you're going to have on the phone with that senior reviewer that's going to go back and relook that. So, man, I highly, highly recommend that they do that. So at least they have that guy or gal's ear for a few minutes to explain, hey, this is why I disagree with the decision, whether it's I feel like I was rated low based on my symptoms. Um, I didn't get a CNP exam. The medical evidence that I submitted isn't showing on the decision letter. So at least you have that opportunity to kind of talk to that senior reviewer and not just not talk to them and let them go back and try to figure out what you're disagreeing with, right?
Chuck, and I would just add to that too with that higher level review. It can be hard for us to hear, but a lot of times we're human beings, right? Even with the VA and looking at stuff, and that's that option for you as the veteran when you do that informal call to really point out sometimes there's just mistakes,
Yeah.
right? And those decision letters, like Chuck said, speaking for Mitch, Coach Mitch here, I looked at him, I was like, oh man, it's not meant to be. Right. And you see that decision and you kind of throw it away. I hate to say that, but really that decision letter has a lot of information in it. And that higher level review too, that's 12 months, right? 12 months after a decision, you have that option on there to do the higher level review. So keep that in mind, right? As the appeals, you have a 12-month window from the date that decision comes back.
Right, right. And, it's the higher level review process is probably the easiest thing to do, right? And the decisions, most of the higher level reviews that I feel like I've done with veterans, man, for the most part, after that informal conference call, it's usually within a couple of weeks, and normally that senior reviewer will tell that vet on the phone, hey, I'll have an answer back in a couple of days, or give me 10 days or a week or whatever, based on that senior reviewer's load of work at the VA. But man, I've been pretty fortunate to have them go through pretty quick. I see a question there from Benny DeMarble that he put in the chat, and I apologize. We're probably not going to get to every single question that's asked, but we'll kind of bounce around. But Benny asks, how long does a claim in decision phase take for an answer to be issued? That kind of depends, Benny, and I know that's not the right answer to give you, right? But it does kind of depend on how busy that they are. I'm kind of seeing with my vets, and Mitch probably the same, but once it hits that decision phase, man, it's usually quick. I tell my vets when they tell me, hey, it just moved to the decision phase, and usually within a week or so, they're hearing something. I don't know what you've been seeing, Mitch, on your end once they hit that decision phase, but if you were like me, when I have claims submitted, man, I'm checking my stuff like 6 times a day, driving myself nuts, waiting on that decision. But once it hits that decision phase, it's pretty quick. But the overall process, I don't know, I'm guessing 90 to 120 days from the time you submit your claim. But that decision phase, once it moves down there, it's pretty quick.
Yeah, and I think that key thing there is that average, right? Once you submit the claim, the average, right? And there's about 90, 120, 25 days, but that is an average. And it's a question we get asked all the time. It's tough because, we like to give a direct answer on that, but the truth is every case varies, right? And the adjudicator's workloads. So there's no regulatory direct date, but that's that average.
Yeah. Yeah, it's usually pretty fast. So just keep an eye on it there, Benny, and hopefully, if you're anything like me, I check that bad boy 10 times a day. So hopefully you won't do that and drive yourself nuts, but just keep checking on it each day at least once. It's probably coming fairly quick, okay?
So Chuck, I'll jump into, so there's a second type of appeal, and it's called a supplemental appeal. Right? This is a good option if you have new and relevant evidence that has surfaced from a previous claim. So you got the higher level review, then there's the supplemental, right? The one thing I would tell you when you're really looking at the supplemental is you're going to want to know what's in your records, right? The reason your decision letter, like Chuck said, but you might need supporting evidence, right? And when it comes down to a supplemental claim, it's easy to look at it as I'm adding new relevant evidence, because that's what you're really doing with a supplemental. New relevant evidence it can vary, right? A medical opinion, from a doctor, that nexus or independent medical opinion, adding evidence from documentation that you might have been missing previously. When you're looking at that evidence, if it's not there and you do have it, that would be new relevant evidence, right, to support in your claim. If you go to get some new documents, or you go to your primary care, or you get new testing or anything that would support that medical claim that was previously denied, that's really when you're submitting that supplemental claim, right? You're adding that new relevant evidence. Some examples would be, with that previous denial, right? They might, deny us as a veteran for a certain thing because it's missing something as simple as a current diagnosis, right, to my records. I went out to the doctor, I got this diagnosed, it's current. That would be new medical evidence being submitted. Your rating doesn't match your symptoms, right? Chuck kind of talked about that, but if you're looking over, you have these different options. And if you're looking at your C file, your Charlie file, that's really the documentation from the exam that you did, right? So you have your decision letter, and then you have your C file, which is the VA documentation from that exam. If something's not adding up correctly in there and your symptoms aren't right, you might want to go out, get something documented, turn it in as new evidence validating that you have those symptoms. If your BVA appeal was denied, your Board of Veterans Appeals, you can always add new relevant evidence. That's what I love with a supplemental. It's one of those things where we only know what we know, but you can always add new relevant evidence to a claim. As embarrassing as it is, I didn't know that. I didn't know that with appeals as I retired. I thought at first, hey, it's one and done, Chuck. Honestly, it took a battle buddy of mine going, hey, Mitch, no. Average wait time on it is really that 125 days, right? So that higher level review might, in some cases, if there's errors there, be a little bit quicker. Trying to think of a couple other things.
Yeah, that's supplemental. When you talk about additional medical evidence, right? If you go back and look at some of the decision letters maybe that you had denied in the past, just go back and read through the reason on the decision, on that decision letter itself, right? And it tells you most of the time what you need for your claim, right? So when it comes to additional evidence, when I have a vet, join, me as their coach, and I'm looking through those decision letters, I'm like, wow, okay. And I start talking about, hey, have you been to the doctor, right? Because that's what Brian talks about all the time. Get your butts to the doctor. That's what you got to have. That's what wins claims, right? Is that medical evidence, right? So, I always tell them, and most of the time they'll be like, oh yeah, I've been at least 3 or 4 times since then. I'm like, okay, let's gather that medical evidence. Let's get you ready to file a new supplemental claim, and let's add that additional evidence. Or maybe you went to a different doctor. Maybe you got a different medical opinion from a different doctor, right? All of that stuff is helpful, right? So like Mitch said, I think just not knowing is the biggest thing that most vets, what you don't know, right? And I didn't know anything about a higher level review. I didn't know anything about a supplemental claim, but these are all ways that you can still go after what you deserve if your claim was denied. Okay.
And being active with it too, right? Like the filing time for that supplemental claim. So I'm going to say 2 things, and I'll say it slow because it can be confusing right with that filing time. But if you get a decision letter and you submit a supplemental claim within 12 months of that decision letter, right, with new evidence, it does go back to the date of that original decision. If it's after that 12 months, it's going to start at that time. So that's where just knowing, I guess, what I know today is if you served, you deserve. If your instincts are telling you, hey, I'm not being compensated correctly, fight, right? Whether you join on and do a discovery call here with us and see if this might be the right fit for you. It is free. Or you look at other avenues. I would tell you always fight. You're fighting for those benefits you really deserve, because there is those specific timelines that start falling in place with things.
Yeah, great point, Mitch. And if you're new here, your first time, I know that we've got some people out here that are probably already members here at VACI. We do offer a free discovery call. Okay, it doesn't cost anything to pick up the phone and just call VACI, do a discovery call. See if it's, you may be at 0%, you may be 30, 50, 70, or 100. We don't know. But if you're not, excuse me, if you're not where you think you should be, then make that call, right? It's no pressure to join, but at least you know if it's something that we can help you with, which I'm sure it will be, okay? But do the discovery call, let those veteran ambassadors talk to you about the program, talk to you about the elite membership program. And if it's something you want to do, hey, do it. And when you do sign up and become an elite member, you'll be assigned a coach here at VACI, and then you guys can get together, strategize, and figure out the best game plan, okay? Another question that kind of pertains to, I think I've seen in the chat from Warren, says, how many open claims can we have? I have a pending mental health, pending CMP, but would like to submit sleep apnea as secondary. And I'm not sure if Warren's a member here at VACI, but what I would do, Warren, is probably get with your coach just to make sure that your all strategy is kind of falling in line, right? Because even though you have that pending mental health claim pending already, then that might be part of the strategy for the sleep apnea as a secondary condition, right? So you want to for sure be rated for that condition before you come back and try to file another claim secondary to something, right? You want to make sure that you're already service connected for that condition before you're doing something secondarily to that. Okay. Hopefully that answered your question, Warren. There's another question there. What is the fee for becoming an elite member? From Laura Huger. Yep. I hope I said your name right, Laura. There's no fee to join up with VACI. So it's kind of a win-win situation, right? So if you join VACI and when you call and make that discovery call with that veteran ambassador, those are the kinds of stuff that they'll kind of talk to you about, as far as fees, but you don't pay VACI unless you win your claim. So that's also a win-win, right? There's nothing that you're going to pay unless you win your claim, right? And then that's when you pay VA claims, the difference times 6, right? That's what it is. But, just to join up with VACI, there's no fees to join. Okay.
Yeah, there's some good questions in here today. Hopefully we can answer as many as possible.
Yeah.
I see Mark was in here, field artillery, just touched on a couple of things. Mark Nichols with hearing loss and his background as field artillery, not being service connected, right? Mark, I would tell you this, it can be really frustrating. You're absolutely right. I promise you, I've been there. I know Chuck has. As well as we know that you're exposed to loud noises constantly all the time. It's usually something really small in those decision letters. And that's why we're here doing this class, is because you do have these options here. And it's good to see you here because I know that you're fighting for what you know is right, sir. So when you're listening to us in here, hopefully, if at least minimum, we can open your eyes to some other options you have on that decision letter, sir.
Absolutely. And Mark, I feel you, brother. I was a 13 Bravo, and I know, those howitzers are not something that don't affect your hearing, and tinnitus and things like that too. So, a lot of times, it's probably if you join up with VACI and you get your coach, he can kind of go back, kind of look at those decision letters on maybe why you were denied the first time. But don't ever give up, right? Don't ever give up. You deserve every bit of what you deserve, right? So don't ever give up. You can make that discovery call, reach out to that ambassador, let them get you hooked up with a coach. Don't do it. Don't try to do it alone. That's what we're here for, right? We're here for you all, right? So you want to make sure that you get signed up, get a coach assigned to you, and let them help you do the work. Okay. But yeah, I get it. It is frustrating, but that's why we're here for, support each other. Okay. There's another question from Ken Schreiber. What can you do if you submitted a claim and was awarded 30% service connected and you think it should be higher? A couple of things, Ken, on this one is you want to make sure that whatever the rated disability that you were rated for is knowing and understanding the rating criteria for that specific disability, right? So I'm going to use an example for headaches. Okay. So headaches are rated at 0, 10, 30, and 50. Okay. Now, if you're rated at 50 on headaches, that's all you're going to get. Even though you may feel like, man, my headaches are bad, and I feel like I should be at 100%. Well, they're not going to give you 100% for headaches. Okay. There's certain rating criteria for certain things, right? So now if you tell me, hey, I was 30% service connected for headaches, and in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, headaches can be rated at 50% as well, right? So it's possible that you were underrated at 30% on the headaches based on the symptoms that you have. Okay. So, if it's a scenario like that, then maybe you do a higher level review. Maybe you do a supplemental claim and add additional evidence. There are still things you can do. And you can always go back and file just a simple increase. It's not what our class is about today, but you can go back and just submit an increase, right? And go to that CMP exam, talk about how your symptoms have worsened since you were service connected. Okay, so that's a few options for you. Hopefully I answered the question, but just make sure that you know the rating criteria for that disability that you were service connected for, because 30% may be the max that they rate you on that specific disability. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go right into this last little step here and talk about the Board of Veteran Appeals a little bit, Mitch. And this is another appeals process. It's not, in my opinion, one that moves fast. That's for sure. I've talked to vets, in the past that have had things sitting at the Veteran Board of Appeals for years. Okay. So the third and final option is to appeal directly to the Board of Veteran Appeals. When you file an appeal with the BVA, you're putting your appeal on a slower track to get a judge compared to the first two lanes that we talked about, like the supplemental claim and the higher level review. Okay. However, when you do the BVA process, a veteran law judge will review your case and can weigh the evidence in your claim with more latitude than the other two lanes. When you file an appeal with the Board of Appeals, you must file what's called a notice of disagreement with the VA form 10182. Okay. With this option, you have three different ways that you can kind of go about the Board of Veteran Appeals process. Okay. You have a direct docket and a review of all the current evidence by the veteran lawyer judge. Will take a look at all of that. Similar to like a higher level review, where you're not going to be able to add any additional evidence if that's the direction that you go with the BVA. Okay. The second option is an evidence docket, right? And that's where they review your file, what's already been submitted, plus any additional evidence will be looked at by the lawyer, veteran judge. Okay. Now, the third one is the hearing docket. And I think this is probably the one that takes the longest time. Okay. You have the opportunity to present your case directly to the judge during a scheduled hearing and introduce more evidence during and after the hearing. Hearing options are both in person and virtual. So I have, I had a few vets that I've worked with here at VACI that did have stuff pending at the Veteran Board of Appeals, and some of them had their virtual hearings already, where they actually went to the VA. They had a room set up, for the vet, and they done the virtual call with the judge right then. So that process, like I said, takes a long, long time. But sometimes that may be the direction you have to go. If you've fought and you've done higher level reviews and you've done supplemental claims and you've done increases and you just still feel like you're not getting what you deserve, then that might be an option for you. Okay. Another thing about the BVA, examples of when not to file a BVA are typically based on the time requirements, right? So if there's an immediate financial crisis that you may be going through or terminal illness with a vet, you may not want to go the BVA process, okay? Because that does take a lot longer to get pushed through, okay? But like I said, there's times that, you may have to do that. So for the exams for that, whether or not you're scheduled for an additional VA exam depends on your chosen lane. So I have had a couple of vets too that went through the BVA process, and the judge came back and remanded it, which sent it back to the VA. Then the VA either made a decision, scheduled another CMP exam to get more evidence, things like that. So it's a long process when it comes to the Veteran Board of Appeals. So that's an option too. We don't really handle any of that. So we mainly focus on the supplemental and higher level reviews. But just know that option is out there for y'all. So if it comes to that, you always got that option. Okay. Anything else you want to touch on, Mitch?
Someone was asking in the chat just on the timelines with it, I think being normal that I had read previously. And I think their goal is with the BVA is 12 to 24 months, but it's kind of like the HLR, and the supplemental, right? Those are goals and averages with it. But I just seen the comments in there. I think it was from Michael. There's a lot of comments in here, so I'm sorry if I messed it up, but excuse me. Yeah, it was Michael in here. So the average, their goal is 12 to 24 months. Obviously it can take longer, sir.
Yeah, it's I don't know that I've seen that with the vets that I had. Not to say that that's not their timeline. I don't know for sure either what the exact time frame is. But most of the vets that I've talked to that have had stuff at the BVA has been closer to 3-4 years down the road. But you know what? If they win that claim, right, that's a lot of back pay for those veterans. So sometimes it's worth the fight. To go that direction. So, but at least that you have that option still. But your coach, if you join VACI, your coach can kind of discuss those options with you too. So. I think we're getting close to the top of the hour. We're gonna kind of close out the class portion of this and kind of answer some questions and hopefully, if you're not a member here at VACI, make that discovery call. If you've made that decision already, just based on this Facebook Live class, then heck, you can go right to the website, sign up at the website. Do the discovery call if you feel like you need more information on what the program is really about. then feel free to make that discovery call and talk to that veteran ambassador to kind of answer any questions that you might have. If after that all your questions are answered and you feel like this is the right step for you, by all means, get signed up, get going, get started. Your coach is going to motivate you and kind of get you going down the right path.
Absolutely. So, Chuck, so there's some really good questions in here. I know you've been kind of going with the Board of Veterans Appeals on here, but Joni Bolsher, I'm sorry if I pronounce your names wrong. I'll do my best to pronounce them right. But Joni put in here, can you do a higher level review for a claim that they did not award back pay to the intent to file date? Right? If it's been within 12 months, you can always do a higher level review. So if there's an issue in there or a discrepancy that you see, it is an option for you. It's a great question, Joni. Thanks for asking it. The key thing with the higher level review is it has to be within 12 months of the date of that decision.
Yeah, thanks. Question there from Kodiak. Man, my eyes need some glasses, Mitch. I'm getting that age. Kodiak 536. I have no evidence for my tinnitus. Got denied. No service connection. And I see this a lot. Kodiak, thanks for asking the question. And it's kind of weird because I see differences in this one a lot, right? And tinnitus is one of those things that's very subjective, right? There's no hearing test that tests you and says, yeah, you have ringing in your ears, right? I was a living example of this specific claim myself. And a lot of times what they do is when it comes to tinnitus is they also kind of look at the MOS that you were in or the job that you were in during your service time. Okay. There's different MOSs or jobs that may be higher probability than others, right? So if you were Air Force on the flight line, around the jet engines, mechanic, artillery, there's a lot of those specific jobs like that in the military that gives you a higher probability. Doesn't mean that you still don't have it, right? Because there's jobs that may be lower probability, but maybe you were attached to another unit, on the flight line. Maybe you were a medic, but maybe your medical unit was attached down on the flight line, or I'm just making up some scenarios here. But, I was in the same boat. I never was diagnosed with tinnitus. It wasn't in my service records. And matter of fact, I just filed my tinnitus claim last year and was awarded 10% for it. And 10% is the max that you're going to get on the tinnitus as well. But what I did was I just got with my coach and wrote a strong statement in support of claim, explaining in detail, what I did in the service, how long I did it in the service, when my tinnitus started, right? These are all kind of key things that I wrote in my statement. And then what I did is I uploaded that statement in support of claim with my tinnitus claim when I submitted it. Went to the CNP exam. Lady asked me about 5 questions, when it started, do I hear it in one ear? Do I hear it in both ears? How it affects me socially, how it affects me occupationally. Gave me the hearing test. Bam, I was in and out in 20 minutes. So it was quick, right? But maybe you didn't have that the first time that you submitted, right? Doesn't mean that it's over. I'm going to tell you, Mitch, funny story. Not funny, but it was a crazy story. I helped a vet. We submitted 4 times for tinnitus, and he was denied. On the 4th time, he won it. I was like, oh, we jumped up and down and clapped and celebrated on the phone, but you can't give up. Sometimes it just takes a different VA rater to be looking at it, right? To get somebody different at the VA to know and understand, oh, wow, okay, yeah, this makes sense. Right. But don't give up. Don't give up. Your coach here at VACI is not going to let you give up. But, it's one of those things. It took 4 times to get this guy service connected for his tinnitus. And that was the first claim he'd ever won through the VA. Talk about happiness. Man, we jumped up and down and then we took off for the next claim. Okay, so don't give up Kodiak 536. All right.
Hang in there, Kodiak. I'm telling you, it's not done until you say it's done, right? You served, you deserve, you're not doing anything wrong. You're asking to be compensated for the service connected disabilities that you got while serving in the military. I got to address something in here. Willie Rakestraw, he put in a great question. What does it mean with you have a decision, but it gets denied with favorable findings? So, Willie, I want to give you a shout out, number one, because you made it further than I did when I first seen my decision letter, right? I didn't even make it to favorable findings on there, honestly. I seen the denied and was like, well, here we go. So, when we're looking at claims, it's important that we understand what needs to be there in a claim, right, for it to be successful for us. And a favorable findings is what they're identifying is some of the things that you do meet for that requirement, right? So when it comes to a disability claim with the VA, we have to have that medical diagnosis, right? We have to have an in-service event. Did we go to the doctor or was there documentation from when we were in service? And that third piece is that logical rationale, right? Linking it together. Most of the time, it's going to be our DD 214 putting us on active duty at the time of that event, right? But when you're looking at your favorable findings in there, that's huge because it's explaining the elements that you're meeting, right? So if you're meeting two of the three and you're missing one, then that's the part you really want to focus on. If all three are there, that's the reason there's appeals like a higher level review, right? Because mistakes can be made. I've seen it. I'm sure Chuck has too. But where you should be service connected and you have a denial, and it's right there in the favorable findings. So I appreciate you bringing that up because a lot of people don't know. Usually the favorable findings is at the bottom of your decision. It's usually that last sentence or two. Thanks. That's a really good question, Willie. Appreciate you asking that question.
Yep. And
sorry, Chuck. I seen it on there. I was like, we got to address this.
Good. Yeah, great. Lots of great questions. I know we're not going to get to all of them, but Mark Wells has one in there. For the HLR informal call, how long does it take to schedule for them to schedule? Submitted April 25th, 2023. So heck, you're going on a couple of months there, Mark. And I have seen it take that long. But normally, I tell my vets usually within about 30 days is kind of what I'm seeing those things get scheduled. So, but I have seen it take longer than that. I've had a few vets go, 3-4 months before that thing gets scheduled. But for the most part, it's pretty quick. And what I'll tell my vets is that, if you haven't heard anything in 30 days, call up that VA hotline and just, inquire on it. Say, hey, I submitted this higher level review. I requested the informal conference call. It's been a few months. Just want to check to see when that may be scheduled. All right. At least that's going to get somebody down at the VA to open up your file and maybe get things moving. So if you haven't done that yet, might want to try that. Okay. But it varies. But for the most part, I usually see within about 30 days. Anything after that, I'd be calling them. Okay. And I got some closing thoughts here real quick, before we wrap this up. We got another minute. If you're not a member here at VACI, make that discovery call, check out the elite program. All the things that we offer with the elite program is the one-on-one coaching strategies with your coach, the CMP prep calls before your CMP exam, developing a good strategy for you and understanding different things that may be leading to other things that you can file for as secondary conditions. Okay. You also get the free live Zoom classes every week that will help you get ready for the mental health CMP exam prep class, the medical exam prep class, Coffee with Coaches, which is a great platform to just jump in and visit with other vets, ask a few questions. Also, Brian has released his new book, You Deserve It. The second edition is out now. So you can order the book on Amazon. You can download it for free. I think they're going to put a link up in the chat. So if you haven't got that thing, wow.
Download it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So closing thoughts on your end there, Mitch?
I would just tell y'all, I really do appreciate y'all taking time to hear us talk today. I really believe in team. Iron sharpens iron, right? Chuck said it earlier. We only know what we know. The power with VA Claims Insider from the outside being here now, that strategy, education, medical evidence, educating us, right, on the best path, the best options for us as veterans. And I just appreciate y'all taking the time, whether you sign up or not, to be here and listen to us. I hope we gave you something that you can take away from this from today. And I always love being on with you, Chuck.
Awesome, brother. Hey, see y'all later. Thanks for joining. Go Army.
Go Army.